Okay, so the whole thing is about making a statement, any kind of statement. So we've got the bus service. So just without answering moan, median, mean, just any statement you like, as simple or basic. Go on.
Not as many people.
But what's your evidence for that?
Well, 0 people. Well, 5 people don't go on the bus.
So you would say 5 people don't go on the bus?
Yeah.
Why?
Because frequency says how many people go on the bus, and then on the other column, number of people using the service. So if 0 use the service, then nobody does, and there's 5 people use it.
But that doesn't make sense. If 0 means the number of people and then 5 people, you can't have 0 people and 5 people at the same time.
Oh, using the service 0 times, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times.
No. See, this is important. It's about being able to interpret the information well, because until we can interpret the information, we are going to struggle with calculating the median, mode, or what it is. So, if I say to you, well, actually, let's think of in real life. Have you ever seen, well, of course you have, the buses going on the lake to Montreux? Yeah? All right. What do you notice about the buses at different times?
There's different people.
And
sometimes there's more people.
Sometimes there's more people than other times. You ever gone onto the buses during that Christmas market time or jazz festival time? It's absolutely packed, isn't it? Yeah. But if we were to go now, for instance, there might only be a few people on. So this is the situation here. If you think about it in real life, what do you think this 05 now means? If you think about, so all the buses that go past here, you look at how many people are on the bus. What do you think this 05 means? This is the number of people using the service, basically the number of people on the bus. Still doesn't make sense? No? No?
Mm-hmm.
So what it means is, imagine that we're stood here looking down at that road in front of the lake. Alright? And we were going to do a survey about whether it's worth running the bus or not. Yeah? So that's what this is basically about. They've started this new bus service and they want to know whether it's the right thing to do. Right? So what does a bus service need to happen to make it worthwhile? People. Well, no, to make it worthwhile, it needs people. Because if we put more buses, but there's no people, we've spent money, but we've not actually got any money in, have we? So what we're looking for is we need lots of people on the buses every time. So if we were going to try and make that decision, we would go and stand down on that road now, and every time a bus came and stopped in front of us, we would count the number of people on the bus. Yeah? Now, as a person looking to decide whether I should carry on the buses, what am I hoping to see every time?
A lot of people.
A lot of people. What am I really hoping not to see?
No people.
No people on the bus. So what I would do is I would write down every bus that comes past and stops. I'd write down how many people are on the bus.
So that would be frequency.
Well, not yet. So for instance, I would keep a tally of how many times the bus had no one on it. And how many times did that happen?
5.
5.
See, that I meant that, but it was just,
Okay.
I didn't explain it correctly, but
fair
that's what I
enough.
meant.
So there were 5 times, basically 5 buses went past with no one on board.
Yeah.
And then there was 4 times with 1 person, 3 times 2 people on board. Was the bus ever quite busy?
Yes.
Yeah. So how many times? So once it had 9 people on, once it had 8 people on, 3 people. Now, if you were to say to someone, do you think this bus service is worth keeping going? What would your answer be?
Yes.
Why? When you say yes, you say no. That's good. Let's.
Oh no, actually no, because the bigger numbers have less people on them. So
Yeah.
no. But I mean, there are still quite a few people, so it's better than nothing.
So in 10, how many buses did we watch? So there's a question. How many buses did
9.
we watch?
9.
Did we see? This is big part of the interpretation. How many? You think 9? Why 9? Now that's a big jump.
Do you count all the people?
Yeah, because remember there were 5 buses with nobody on, 4 buses with 1 person on, and so on, yeah? Alright? So, how many buses in total? 5 plus 4 is 9, 12, 16, 22,
24, 26, 29,
31? We think 31 buses. Yeah? How many? Let's assume every bus had different people on. How many people did we see? How many people did we see?
53.
53. Why would you say that?
Well, because you can't count the total of just people using the service.
So you just did 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, add 5.
Yeah.
But didn't we have 4 lots of 1 people? So that makes 4 lots of 1 person makes 4 people. 3 lots of 2 people makes 6 people. 4 lots of 3 people makes 12. 6 times 4 is 4. 2 times 5 makes 10. 2 times 6 makes 12. 3 times 7 makes
21.
1 times 8 makes 8. And 1 times 9. And
Nine.
just finish off. 0 times 10 makes 0.
0.
So that's how many people. So how many was that then? 6 4 is 10, 12, 16, 18, 19, 27, 36. So that's 3. Well, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are actually 106 people. Alright? Now, thing is, the next thing is to really understand the question you're being asked. So you maybe did these correct, but did you understand what they were for? So it says calculate the mode. So what did you put as the mode?
1, 2, 3, and 4.
1, 2, 3, and 4. Why?
Because that's the most frequent number. That's the number that occurs the most often.
Why is it the one 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah.
Most often. Why?
Because they both occur twice, so there's not. They're all of them.
Oh, are you looking at just these 2 sets of numbers?
No, the first, the frequency.
Yeah, frequency.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
No.
Okay, well that's the thing. What am I actually calculating the mode of? The mode is
Oh, it's number
4, isn't it? 4 people.
So then mode doesn't always mean the number that occurs the most often.
Yes,
It doesn't occur.
it does. But what you've got to interpret is, what do I mean? Now, remember the frequency is how many of these numbers appear. So I've got 5 zeros. I've got 4 ones. So which number appears the most often? The highest frequency. So there are 6 4s. So the mode is 4 people on the bus occurred the most often. Does that make sense? Yeah? Now, what about the median? 3, you think? Why 3?
Right, because we put the frequency in order and
You put the frequency in order.
we
So
work
you-
together.
Pardon?
We work together.
Yeah, no, not a problem. But what do you mean by put the frequency in order?
Well, the numbers are in order, so 0, 1.
0, 1,
Yeah.
1, 2, 2, 3. Why would you do that? I think what we've got to make sure is that you really understand.
Order from last
Really?
and
Do you remember what numbers it is that we need to have in order?
But how are you supposed to know which
Because
one?
the frequency tells you how many. These are the numbers that we have. We have 5 zeros, 4 ones, and so on. The numbers are already in order. We have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and so on, yeah? The frequency tells you how many numbers you have. Alright? So, how many numbers are there?
10.
No.
31.
31. Remember, it's 31 buses. I've got 31 buses. So, if I've got to find the middle of 31 numbers, with
15 and a half.
15 and a half, you think?
Because half of 30 is 15, and 31 is 15 and a half.
But that's just splitting 31 into 2 chunks and have 15 and a half, 15 and a half, yeah? But what's the middle of those? So it's very different between, it's not very different, but it's a bit different between finding half and finding the middle. Yeah? Do you understand? So, let me put it this way, right? I'm just going to write a few numbers here, just to try and explain this middle bit. So we're looking at, how do I find the middle? Now, if I write down 2 numbers, 2 and 4. 2 numbers. What's the middle of 2 and 4?
3.
So the middle equals 3. Alright? If I were to write down 3 numbers, 2, 4, 5. So for you, what you'd have done is gone 3 divided by 2 is the 1.5.
No, I would have done 4. But the way you explained, I understood that you have to divide the 31 into 2. You see. That's how I understood it.
Okay, fine. So what would be the middle? The middle would
4.
actually be, okay, 4, right? So if I have 10 numbers, so I've got 10 numbers in a line, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? It doesn't matter what those dots represent. Let me just zoom in a bit, okay? Doesn't matter what they represent, but if I did 10 divided by 2, I get
5.
5. So would you pick the 5th number? Because what we have is when we divide it by 2,
You can't with even
we get
numbers.
5 and 5. Right, okay, it doesn't work.
Only with odd
So what we do is when we have, I'm glad you said even and odd. So when we have an even number of numbers, we do divide by 2, but then what we need is the 5th from 5, but we also need the 6th number. So we look for the middle of the 5th and 6th.
5.5.
Well, it depends what the numbers are.
No, but I mean, would you, because if there's 2, would you only see the number that's in between them?
Yeah, so for instance, if I had 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, for instance, if they were the 10 numbers, I would need to look for the 5th and the 6th number, okay? which would be 3 and 4. So in this case, the middle of 3 and 4 would be
3.5.
what?
3.
3.5. So 3.5 would be the middle. What if it was 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5 for 10 numbers?
That would be 4.
So that'd be 4. So you find the middle. Again,
Perfect.
10 divided is the 5th, but you'd need to find the 5th number and the 6th number, but they're both 4, so the middle of them is 4. Alright? So that's when we have even numbers. But what about if I say 11 numbers?
Then there would only be
We've got
one
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now what we would do, you would say, is 11 divided by 2 is
4.
5.5,
Because it's an uneven number, you can
because it's an odd number.
odd number.
So we would actually do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, have half, but that means that that one is the middle, because then I've got 5 the other side as well. So when I end up with a 5, we actually don't take the 5.5, we take the 6th number. Yeah? Alright? So, if we go back to here, how many numbers have we got again? 31. So, if we do 31 divided by 2 gives you
15.5.
15.5. So, which number do I need to find?
No, you have to find the.
Remember, it's 15 and another half.
So
So,
60.
so it's the 16th number.
But it's an uneven.
Find the 16th. Now, this is where again you find it a little bit tricky at the moment. Which is the 16th number? So we've
But
got.
you would have to write out the number.
We
from
could,
the
or
It's 3.
so. How many zeros are there? There are 5. There are 4 ones. That makes how many numbers in total?
1.
9. So there's 9 numbers, so we've still not got enough. Plus 3 makes 12 numbers. Plus a number 4 makes 16. So actually the 16th number is a 3. Good. Not a 4. It's a 3. So the 16th number, the 12th number, 9th number, is a 3. So find the 16th number is a 3. So that's the median. So we've got a mode of 4, a median of 3. Alright. What about the mean then?
2.9.
How do you work it out then?
We added them all
The
up.
frequency and then divide by.
Yeah, and we've already done these, haven't we? So what do? We've got divide by...
10. No, it's your.
31.
31, isn't it? There are 31 numbers. Okay. And we've got to add all those numbers up, and we've already done that, haven't we? We've got 5 zeros. Yeah. 5 is 0. 4, 6. We added them all up and got the answer.
2.9.
How many people in total did we speak to?
It's
106.
106. So this is the thing, the mean, all of these is the average number of people on the bus. So we've got 106 people in total. You got that? Divided between 31 buses. So we've got to think it through. So we've got to share 106 with 31 people, and we get the answer. Probably need a calculator to do this. That'll look weird on the video. Let's do. So we have to do on our calculator 106 divided by 31. And what did you think the answer was? What did you think? 2.9. It's actually 3.4. 3.4 people. Alright. Now, I guess the thing that you need to do, both of you, to get this right, is to think, what is it I'm being asked? Rather than just look at the numbers, what is it I'm actually being asked about? Right? It's how many people on the buses. You can't just go at it like it's a set of numbers. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean by that?
Kind of,
Yeah, it can't be just a set of numbers, because that's where you're going to go wrong. It has to actually mean something. So when it says to you, calculate the mode, the median, the mean, you've got to say it's the mean, the mode, number of people on a bus. So you've got to share out the people between the buses. Now, what kind of statement? So it says, which of these average values give the best justification for continuing the service?
Well, the mean, because it gives you a good range of how many people use the bus.
So the mean, because it gives you a good range. Okay, fair enough. What about, so the mean says 3.4 people on a bus. The mode is 4 people on a bus. What about
It tells you that more.
that? So you've got the 4 people. That'd be a good one to use, wouldn't it? To justify keeping it. Now here's the big understanding thing from you. Why could it be criticised as not giving a fair representation of the use of the minibus service?
Well, because it doesn't really show everything.
No? In what way doesn't it not show everything? You're right, so...
Well, you have to. It only. I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't show everything.
Yeah, so for instance, the mean, like you said, uses all the data, doesn't it? But the mean is affected quite a lot by the big numbers. Right, does that make sense? So the fact that there are, let me just draw this. So the mean here takes everything, and the fact that there are these high numbers here, 1, 1, okay, 7, that will drag the mean up. It will make it a bigger average. Okay, it'll get the number higher. But would you say that that's a true reflection of the number of people on a bus? Because
Almost.
yeah. Well, if I said to you, oh, but you know, quite often there's quite a few people on the bus. Look, I've got 9 people, I've got 8 people.
Oh, it depends.
But what would be your argument against that?
Well, it doesn't work it out for you.
No, it depends.
Oh no, it's not. It's not. What's the problem with me saying, look, I get buses that have got 9 people on them, so we should keep it? What would your response to that be? You want to get rid of this bus. You don't want to spend the money on putting the bus on, but I want to keep it. I'm going to, but look, I've got, on average, 4 people on a bus. I actually have 9 people on the bus sometimes.
But that's only once.
Exactly. Oh, well, yeah, okay, 9, but I have got 8 people on the bus.
That's also only once.
So also only once. And your response would be, but really, how many people generally on the bus?
4.
4. Or, so where is the main set of data here that interests us?
4.
So around this mark, isn't it? Because 5, 4, 3, 4, 6. So anywhere between 0 and 4 people. Do these ones really matter?
No.
No, because they're such smaller. It happens every now and again. Could you think of a reason why that might have happened, that there were 9 people on the bus, for instance?
Well,
Any ideas? It's not wrong.
might have been something happening, but then again, that was only once, so.
Yeah, exactly.
There
So,
might have been a one-day festival.
yeah, might be a one-day festival that happens once a year.
Or
They missed the bus before.
Or maybe they had a
Maybe
party
the bus got
to go-
cancelled before, and there were lots of people waiting. Maybe they had a party. They were all friends. Maybe there's a group of teenagers all going out together. and they used the bus once because their parents said no. You know, but this doesn't tell us that information. So what we would look at is, well, the lower numbers tend to be the more popular.
So you have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, so do you remember early on we talked about the distribution of the data? It's not, you can't just rely on the average, you've got to look at how the data is spread. Because the mean is definitely affected, so the mean here is definitely affected by these high numbers. Alright? If I were to forget these ones, the mean would be much more in there. Alright? So, if it was you spending your money on the bus, would you keep this bus service going or not?
No.
No. Why?
Even though there were a lot of people, I was only once. And when there's only a little amount of people, it happens a lot of times.
And therefore I don't make any money, yeah?
Yeah.
Because there were
But I mean,
Five
it's better
buses.
than nothing, though.
yeah, no, you're right. This is
No, but what I mean,
actually,
for example, with the 6 and the 4, right?
yeah,
It's actually, you could debate. You could make it keep on going, or you couldn't, because 9 9 people come at the bus only once, but if 3 people come on the bus 4 times, that's 12, which is more than 9. So you could continue the bus if you could.
yeah. No, I think this discussion you're having is exactly what needs to be had. Do you know, I watch on the news in England, this is actually a real situation where a bus company has a bus that goes to the countryside, yeah, to pick quite often old people up where they can't drive, so they rely on the bus, because a lot of people that live in the countryside, if they've got a lot of money, drive, don't need a bus. So the only people that need the bus are the people with no cars. So this is a real situation.
I'm sorry, it's just so funny. I could just imagine an old grandma coming in with a stick and honking on the horn.
So, but this is the situation. You're a bus company and it costs you money to put the buses on. Alright? Now you might say, but I'm not making enough money. But then the problem is, there were a few people, there were 106 buses, 106 people that did take the bus, but it happened over an entire month. So, what potentially, so let's say you didn't want to stop the bus service completely, what would you suggest we do?
Maybe make the prices lower.
But what if
Drive
there's no
everyone.
more people?
Or not have them every hour.
So not have 31 buses, but only have 10
But
buses.
if you
Yeah.
want to continue,
So
then
cut the
why
bus service,
drive?
because then what are you hoping to happen? That
You can afford to keep
so you can run 10 buses, but you would hope all those 106 people still took the bus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and they'd be more crammed onto one bus.
That's a risky
Rather-
situation.
Why?
Because I mean, if there's not many buses, then obviously they can't drive everywhere. So if people take the bus for a reason. For example, they don't have a car, so if they don't drive to them,
Yeah.
then they won't use them. So
And
they
that's the
might lose
problem.
customers.
Yeah, that's
Is this a real life situation
Yeah.
like that people sometimes think of, like a strategic move?
yeah, that is.
Right.
Definitely, this is something that people would sit and discuss. This is why we collect data. So we collect this data, and then we sit and discuss it and
But
say, right,
why, if,
what
like,
decision do we make?
but why make it like, why, not distribute it, why display it like that hard?
Because it opens it up to discussion. Yeah? So we work out the averages, but we have to look at the numbers and say, right, maybe the bus company says we've got to have a minimum of 6 people on every bus, on average. So I would look at my averages and say I've not got enough people. So the solution to that for the people that run the bus company, because your boss doesn't do it, he tells you what he wants, and would be to cut the number of buses, like Jana said. Then like you said, well, but then people need to get to places at a certain time. So the idea of cutting the bus, remember this is over a month, maybe it's like, well, instead of having a bus 2 times a day. We only have a bus once every 2
Oh,
days.
there's also a reason that actually if you do that, you might result in no customers anymore because they might go on strike. So nobody
Customers
would go
don't
onto
go on
the bus.
strike.
No,
but-
No, the
People
people
want-
going onto the bus would go to strike because they've reduced the amount of buses. So they don't
Well,
drive
I
everyone,
think
so
what
you would have
tends
no
to happen,
customers to drive.
yeah, well, they would probably still need to go on the bus, but what would happen is, let's say, for instance, there was no bus when one of these men needs to go, and he goes to see his friends at the pub once a week, and he always goes on a Wednesday lunchtime. And at the moment, there's a bus on Wednesday lunchtime. If you cut the number of buses and you don't have one on a Wednesday, well, does he just go, I'll get the Thursday bus?
No.
No, so he can't go at all. So he won't, it's not that he goes on strike, as you say, it's just he can't go. What he needs to go to, he can't get there anymore. So some people think, but they'll all go on one bus instead of being spread over 3 buses, but actually a lot of times it stops people going at all. So like you
But
said,
it is a clever idea.
if it works.
It could work.
Yeah, and
It might
this
work
is,
in the future.
so this is the whole thing about the statistics is we have to look at the statistics and be able to interpret them as more than just numbers.
I actually never knew being a bus driver could be that hard.
Being a bus driver is easy. Being the runner of the bus company
That's what I mean.
decides where the buses go.
Oh,
You know?
well, yeah,
Just running a business, like big business, that's what happens, isn't it? It's like, I imagine Nestle and their products.
Yeah.
Do you send that product to that country if you only sell 10 a day? Is it worth
it's
it?
not worth that.
But if you don't send it, do you lose customers? But you gain more by... These are problems for businesses to sort out. Big stuff, isn't it? But, so what I need you to get to is you really need to understand as well as being able to do these. But does it make more sense now about how to actually do
A
those
bit
3
more.
numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about your question 3? Could you maybe have another look at your question 3 and just check whether you think you've got anything wrong now? Okay, looking at this question 3, I don't want to actually do the calculations, right? I want you to explain the situation. So we've got the amounts of money spent during each hour. Alright? So, if you look at that table, it's the total number of people who spent each amount. And so why would we be collecting this data?
Well, to see at what time.
Like what amount of money?
Yeah.
So what amount of money gets spent
At what time?
and whether there's a difference in times, yeah. So just looking at the data, what would you say?
Well, people spend the most money during 7 p.m. to 8
Yeah.
8 p.m. and that might be because they become hungry throughout the day.
Yeah, I'd say there's reasons, there's lots of... But you can already see, by really looking at this table, forget the questions, look at the table and go, what's it about? And yes, it's money being spent, 5 p.m. till 6, 6 till 7, 7 till 8. Alright? And we could think of reasons why, but it's quite clear that more money gets spent 7 to 8. Alright? So when we collect our data, instead of having all this information, we would want to know, well, what is the average amount spent between 5 and 6? What's the average amount spent between 6 and 7?
Wait, but average would be the amount that spent the most, right?
Well, it could be the most, it could be the middle, it could be
Well, how do you
For
find
me.
the average?
mode, median, mean. They're all averages. So you would find all 3.
No, but I mean like just the normal mode. Like if you
No,
would
well,
mark us on a
There
test.
is no
you would
normal, no, there's no normal.
No,
You
like the
choose-
average of the test results was the average of your time.
But that's
How
that's
do you
the
find
thing.
that?
Well,
Would you do mode?
That's the thing,
Teachers
it's-
do like divide by the total.
I mean, that's percentage.
Yes, I would.
no, so if I wanted to know the average score, what I would do is work out the one that I think is most applicable. So
The one with the
mean, median, or mode. This is a good question for you to ask. Because mean, median, or mode, which one do I do and why? That's what we're doing here. We're discussing which one is most suitable.
I
So
didn't
when
know.
I say work out the average,
Would it be 40 because it's the most common number?
you could say that. Yeah.
The
Why not?
average is like the number
The
that you use
average?
most often.
No. The average is the mode, or the median, or the mean. Whichever one you want to choose. And actually, most people say the average is the mean. But I agree with you. I agree that actually the average is more often than not the mode or the median. Because if I said to you, what's the average cost of a bottle of Coke? You just say, oh, it's rough, and you pick a value somewhere in the middle, don't you?
Yeah.
Of what you know about. Oh, that £1.50.
No, more.
You didn't
In
add up.
Switzerland, it's more.
Well, the mean would be higher because Verbier, it's like £1,000,000 for a little bottle of Coke. But what we would do is ignore that one because it's Verbier, and we would go Co-op where it's £1.50. Yeah. So we don't use that. So it's actually a good which one to use. Good question. Okay.